Hello everybody, thank you for coming to my channel and joining me on this video summary of my cruise on board the NCL Prima. My friends and I went in late January for my birthday and it was a 7-day cruise to the Western Caribbean. Here's the video. Here we are on embarkation day in Galveston. As you can see, everything went super smoothly. Even though there were a lot of passengers, we had 0 slowdowns during the entire boarding process. We had a brief wait in line to get our key cards, but never stopped moving after that. As soon as we got on the ship, we made our way to the box office to make reservations for The Price is Right, and once that was taken care of, we headed off to Hudson's for some lunch because we were starving. Just made it on board the NCL Prima. Embarkation went very smoothly. I don't think I've ever had a smoother embarkation process. We're now sitting in Hudson's waiting for our meal. I'm super excited to try it. So I got the fish and chips, and Jessica got the burger, and we will see how everything is. That is super good. Here is my birthday breakfast the next morning. I had some fruit and the strangest version of biscuits and gravy I've ever eaten. Jackie had a wrap, and Jessica also got the fruit. Interesting turn of events on the Norwegian Prima today. We are about to rescue a small craft with about 5 people in it that were waving to get our attention. Out here on the balcony, trying to see if we can see where they are. No sight of them yet, but we'll keep looking. And here they are in what was clearly a homemade boat. It looked like it was made out of styrofoam coolers, plywood, and duct tape. The sail was a bed sheet, and there were about a dozen or so people on board. I desperately need to upgrade my phone and camera, so these are the best shots that I got, but there are some really good pictures on social media if you search for them. It took the ship about 30 minutes or so to turn around and come to a stop. Once we were at a complete stop, they deployed one of the lifeboats to pick them up. On a side note, I have to say, watching how smoothly they were able to deploy that boat gave me a lot of confidence in case of an emergency evacuation at sea. Anyway, it took them about half an hour to motor over, tie up, load the refugees onto the lifeboat, and motor back. We were able to get a little bit more information on the refugees. One of my friends heard from a passenger that took the behind-the-scenes tour that the captain told them that they had come from Cuba and had been at sea for something like 40 days. They were out of fresh water for nearly 3 weeks and desperate for rescue. They were turned over to the Mexican authorities whenever we arrived in Costa Maya. Apparently, Mexico has a program to help refugees so they won't be deported back to Cuba, where they would likely be jailed or executed. Here they are getting unloaded from the lifeboat onto the ship. And here's the lifeboat being loaded back up onto the ship. I will say it was much easier to get the lifeboat off the ship than getting the lifeboat back onto the ship. They aren't really designed to be reattached in open water, but the crew were able to get it done, and we were on our way to Costa Maya with only about a 2-hour delay. Birthday to you. When I got back to my cabin after dinner, I discovered that my friends had snuck in and decorated it for my birthday, which was a nice surprise. The next day we were in Costa Maya and didn't get off the ship. We ate at Onda for dinner, and this pizza, which is considered an appetizer, was one of the best things we ate on the whole trip. I had the steak for dinner, and it was also really good. I can't remember what this dessert was, but by that point I was too stuffed to eat it anyway. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump in here and talk a little bit more about Onda because I don't have enough footage for voiceover. It was our hands down favorite restaurant on the ship. The portions were gigantic and the prices were reasonable. I highly recommend it. You don't need to use the dining package. It was honestly too much food to use the dining package. We all left uncomfortably full, and they won't let you take leftovers back to your room out of food safety concerns. So if I were to do it all over again, I would just pay a la carte for Onda and use the dining package for the teppanyaki restaurant instead. Okay, now back to the video. Later that night was Sensoria, which is where they convert the Prima Theater into a quote-unquote Vegas-style nightclub. They did something similar on 70s Night, but my phone battery died, so I didn't get any footage. It was a lot of fun to get out on the dance floor and party with the NCL crew. The next morning, we were on our way to Belize. We started the day with a delicious breakfast. Jackie got the Eggs Benedict, and I got the Belgian waffle. And check out the pile of bacon they gave us as a side order. And here we are at Harvest Key, Belize, NCL's private island. We didn't book any excursions, but the island had lots of things to do. Right where you enter, there were all sorts of little stores and kiosks for shopping. They had things ranging from clothing and jewelry to souvenirs to art to chocolate. The main streets were nicely paved with cobblestones, so this would be a good port for people with mobility issues. The landscaping was also very well done. I mean, come on, look at these gorgeous hibiscus plants. The island also had a small walk-through butterfly garden full of blue morpho, also known as owl-eye butterflies. They were gorgeous and definitely not afraid of people. This one even landed on this lady's hat. Around the bend here is the beach. You can see the food and beverage vendors there along the walkway. One thing to note is unlike NCL's private island in the Bahamas, nothing is included. The food and beverages are all at an additional charge. There were plenty of lounge chairs on the beach, and there's a nice boardwalk for people who prefer not to walk in the sand. We thought this lighthouse was just a lighthouse until we saw people ziplining from the top. I thought it looked like fun, but my friends had other ideas. At the far end of the boardwalk is more beach with a giant chessboard and a small restaurant. There were actually several small restaurants on the island, but we ate on the ship. At the other end of the boardwalk is the pool area. It looked inviting, but it really wasn't warm enough for us Texans to get in, so we headed back to the ship. That night, we ate dinner at Hudson's and watched the Donna Summer musical. Unfortunately, they don't allow recording during the show, so I don't have any footage. The next morning, we woke up in Roatan, Honduras. We had to get up super early, so I skipped breakfast. We were off the ship as soon as we were cleared and on the road to visit an animal sanctuary. My friend Jessica has wanted to hold a sloth for her whole life, so this was a big day for her. We also got to play with some very rambunctious monkeys, parrots, and iguanas. This little guy right here is called a Kawadi Mundi. After the animal sanctuary, we headed to a local ranch where we got to ride horses along the beach. My horse was the only one that didn't need to be led. The others just wanted to stay in the barn, but we had a good time anyway. They even had a 10-day-old colt for us to see. It didn't have a name yet, but it was definitely cute. Dinner that night was at Los Lobos, the specialty Mexican restaurant. My enchiladas were different than the Tex-Mex that I'm used to, but they were still really good. And the tres leches cake was to die for. Skip the churro donuts, though. They weren't worth the calories. The following morning, we were in Cozumel. We had a quick breakfast at Hudson's before heading off on our ATV adventure. Most of the footage is too shaky to include, but here are a couple clips. We ended the afternoon at Playa Mia, where I did a little kayaking and my friends enjoyed the beach. That night we ate at the teppanyaki restaurant, which was probably the most fun meal on the ship. It's basically a competition to see which table can sing the loudest. The next morning was our final day at sea, and we realized that we hadn't tried some of the frozen drinks, so we started with mudslides and had Miami Vices at lunch. Dinner was at Cagney's Steakhouse, and my steak was perfectly cooked. The truffle mashed potatoes were heavenly, and this is my favorite dessert on the ship, chocolate orange mousse. Here we are at The Price is Right. Jackie actually got called down to bid on an item. She didn't get to play the game, but it was cool to have somebody in our group get called. And I'll just wrap up the video with our portraits. Overall, we had a pretty good time, but I probably won't be doing another cruise out of Galveston in January. The weather is just too unpredictable, and it rained or was overcast for the majority of our trip. The pool area was small and shadowed by the go-kart track, so we really didn't get much sun. We also had some issues with the cruise overall. While the food in the main dining room was acceptable, you had to upgrade to specialty dining if you wanted something exceptional. Also, the comedy club and Sid Norman's were way too small, so we couldn't participate in some of the activities like karaoke. On the whole, I'd give our shore excursions a 10 out of 10, but the ship a 7 out of 10 because of those few things. Thanks for joining me for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy travels!